Good lunch day and good lunchtime, friends. If you're just joining us, I hope that it'll just be a few more moments here as we wait for others to gather at our 12:15 meeting with Governor Beshear. Welcome again to our virtual Kentucky Council of Churches Day at the Legislature, although we had severe technical difficulties, and if you're able to see and hear us now, it's only by the grace of God. This morning's festivities were completely marred by technical problems, and we're so sorry. But we're also glad that nobody had to be on the road today, and I hope that everyone is keeping warm and safe. My name is Kent Gilbert. I'm one of the members of the Justice and Advocacy Commission here, and in just a few moments, I'll be introducing other members of the team, including our esteemed chair and, of course, Governor Beshear. So please hang tight. We're just waiting for things to begin, and we hope that you are safe and warm where you are as we gather together to meet, learn, pray about matters before us as we come together as a Commonwealth. So thank you for being a part of this. We're very grateful. We'll be back in just a minute as we continue to wait as others join and as our platforms boot up here. And as soon as we get confirmation that the governor is with us, we'll begin. If you haven't already, do let me invite you to take a look at the link that's at the bottom of the screen. It's just right down here. The https kycouncilofchurches.org is our website, which is being revised. But what we really would like is for you to go to the legislative info portion, the legislative-info on the kycouncilofchurches.org site. We'll let you sign up for our email legislative alerts. That way, when we know of legislation that might be of interest to you, or of special events like another day at the legislature, which we will be having in person in February. We'll have another one. We'll do a second chance, and we'll hope for better weather on that day. So please sign up at legislative-info down there so that you can get all those news and alerts. We wanted to make sure that you knew that if you have already signed up for those alerts, it's good to go and make sure that you are still listed with the right email address that you'd like to have so that we make sure we can get you all the information that you want. We've been very grateful for the support of many partners and friends on this day, and in particular, we want to thank our partners from Thrive Kentucky. Thrive KY has been a partner of agencies and groups that lend their expertise on issues like housing and food security, healthcare needs in the state. And we've been very grateful to be partners with folks so that we can bring to you not just prayerful theological reflection, but also the deep wisdom and the careful research that others can provide because of that. We're very glad that we can work together. By working together, we clearly make for a better partnership. As you know, we work together as the Kentucky Council of Churches in lots of ways, not just during the legislative session. And since 1947, the KCC has been a thriving force for ecumenical unity in the state. We're 11 different denominations, and one of the very few that includes Catholic and Baptist, black and white, rich and poor, urban and rural. We really have a great breadth. And for the 85 years now that we've been 85, the number 75 years, 76 years that we've been working together on this project of partnership in our faith. We try to be many voices, of course, but we bring one unified place. Well, I'm very glad to see that the governor has joined us. Governor, we're glad to welcome you. And I'm going to add also in our chair of the Justice and Advocacy Commission, and Todd Smith, if you would bring forth a little welcome. And of course, I think if it's all right with you, we'll open with prayer.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you, Governor, for being here with us today. I know that we've had to reschedule some things because of the weather, and we are so glad that you've been flexible with us to be with us this morning. We'd also like to thank everyone who is joining us virtually here for our Kentucky Council of Churches Day at the Legislature. It is a hard day for us to be doing this work with all the cold and the weather, but it is wonderful that we're able to be together. If you would, let's join together in prayer. Almighty God, you spoke through your prophets, telling us what you require of us, to seek justice and to love mercy and to walk humbly with you. Now, God, as we take a moment to be about the business of seeking justice, to be about the business of hearing about the needs of your children in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, may you speak to our hearts, that we may be filled with the love that you have for all of your children, and that by that love we may be pushed forward to outpour your love to all the people of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. That by your love and by your grace and by your goodness, we may be and build your kingdom. And we lift all this to you in the blessed and holy name of our Lord Jesus, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
Well, once again, we are blessed to be joined here by our esteemed Governor, Andy Beshear, and by Charles Booker, who I think is a secretary, but I'm not quite sure what that position title is, so you can correct me if I'm wrong about that. But it is wonderful for both of you to be here with us today. I'm going to go ahead and drop out of here and turn it over to you, gentlemen, so you can tell us about some of the work that you're doing across the Commonwealth.
Governor, we're not hearing you. Is your mic on?
Um,
We tested.
Got
Try
it?
again. Got it.
All right. Well, take two. It is a snowy day here at the Capitol, but several of us are here nevertheless trying to push the people's business forward. I am excited to begin the first session of my next and last 4 years as your governor, and my pledge is to continue to lead with my, and I believe, our values of faith, of family, of hard work, but of leading with love, compassion, understanding, as opposed to judgment these next 4 years. It's concerning that it seems like every session, perhaps for the next election that comes up, we see attempts to divide, attempts to stoke anger, fear, even hatred. My commitment is to make sure that we continue to lead with empathy and compassion and try to do the best we can for each and every one of our families, knowing that every hand up that we are able to provide someone is a true chance not only for the betterment of their life, but of the lives of their kids and their kids' kids and their kids' kids' kids. This is a chance right now, at a time when our economy is on fire, where we are creating better jobs than ever before, to make the wise investments to help all of our people move forward. I think this is our chance never to be a flyover state ever again, but to be the destination. And at a time where we're creating a good job for everybody, we can get educated enough, trained enough, and healthy enough to fill, our ability to make intra-generational change is greater right now than at any time in my lifetime. I've been proud to be the governor that's restored voting rights to 180,000 Kentuckians, that has made sure that our Capitol and Capitol Rotunda is welcoming, removing divisive statues and doing other things that make sure that everyone is welcome here, and standing up every single time where people try to divide us and suggest that some of us are less worthy than others. As we move forward, our opportunities right now are absolutely critical. We can't stay number 2 in per capita economic development, which is a wonderful place to be, if we are 45th in starting teacher pay and 40th in average teacher pay. This is the session where we need to make sure we are investing in public education, knowing any alternatives that they try to create, that the public school system will still continue to educate the vast majority of our children. And for them to get the very best, we can't be impoverishing those that we want to teach and train the very best. We proposed an 11% across the board raise to every single public school employee, from the janitors to the educator, to the teachers, to the custodians, to the cafeteria workers. Think about what that does to our communities, especially some of our poorer counties where our public school systems are the number one employers. An 11% raise there means not only a better life for our families, but it means a jolt to those economies at a time where we can absolutely afford it. We've raised pay for Kentucky State Police. We've raised pay for corrections officers. We've raised pay for social workers, and it's worked. In each and every one of those fields, we're getting more and more applications, more and more people. The same will apply to public school education, and they shouldn't be the last to see the raises that are desperately needed. My faith tells me that every child is a child of God, and that means it's time for universal pre-K for all 4-year-olds across Kentucky. Think about it. Half of our Kentucky kids come to kindergarten not kindergarten ready. That means that we are failing half of those children of God here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. With parents that can't afford daycare and or there aren't enough slots for them, Universal Pre-K also solves 1/4 of our child care crisis, enabling all 4-year-olds to be at a safe place that also provides enrichment and ensures that every single child is kindergarten ready, that we can get meals, that we can do checkups, that ultimately we're looking after each and every one of those kids. In our current budget, we do it in a way that incentivizes childcare, which is struggling and needs help, with unprecedented resources, about $140 million over 2 years, to make that transition to serve kids from birth all the way up to that universal pre-K. By doing it in this way, 34,000 additional Kentucky kids will get pre-K services, 34,000 that aren't right now, and thousands of additional slots will open up in childcare. Without doing these two together, we won't increase one childcare slot, and we won't make this really important increase in universal pre-K. We continue in our budget to invest in cleaner drinking water, which I believe is a basic human right, proposing another $500 million of grants so as not to raise bills on families that are already struggling, but to make sure that everyone has clean water that comes to their faucet and a sewer system that keeps them healthy. Also thrilled about how healthcare is expanding all across Kentucky. I think Dr. King would have been proud because he talked about healthcare being one of the greatest inequities. We're building the first hospital in West Louisville in 150 years. The Bullock County Hospital is going to help reduce ambulance times and save lives. We've got 2 pediatric autism centers that have been built in Eastern Kentucky, so no one's ever told the best thing they can do for their children is to move. We've got hospitals all over that are creating clinics, like St. Clair is putting one in Morgan County. The idea that you should never have to drive 2 hours or take 2 buses to see a doctor. I'm excited about the things that we can do right now with an economy that is booming to lift up every single Kentuckian, because now's the chance where if we do that, and if we meet those needs, and we get everybody prepared, educated, healthy, and trained, then we can change lives for every single one of our citizens and create a better tomorrow, living out the golden rule and the parable of the Good Samaritan. We do face some challenges in this legislative session. We have 2 bills attacking what they call DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. 3 values that we see throughout the Bible as good things, things that we're supposed to strive for. That golden rule says we love our neighbor as ourselves, and the parable of the Good Samaritan says everyone is our neighbor. That is diversity, that is equity, and that is certainly inclusion. Some of the bills go even further and try to eliminate belonging. Well, the teaching of belonging is critical throughout our lives. And in one extra piece, if you haven't seen it, it would stop all trauma-informed training in our K through 12 education system. As a former attorney general who dealt with the topic of child abuse, prosecuted those abusers, caught some of the worst of the worst, a trauma-informed approach is the right thing to do. It hasn't been controversial up until I've seen this bill. And not having the training to talk to and to try to help a child that has been through the worst means we are not going to give our very best to that child that needs our help during that period of time. Outside of that, I think you'll see a number of other things that are a mix of attacks on other branches of government, trying to take more of their authority, which our system is set up to stop, and or efforts by one party or another to win the next time when they haven't the previous time. There's a bill up that would make the Board of Education all elected through partisan elections. Listen, if we could do one thing that would help the world, every election would be nonpartisan. And then it wouldn't be Team A versus Team B, Team Red versus Team Blue, Team D versus Team R. Instead, it would be about a person and their ideas. And people are hungry for that. And when the election I got through, the other side threw out every hateful, divisive, angry, fear-mongering type of ad, and the people rejected it. They are tired of it. They are tired of being told they should turn against their neighbor. And as proof, the areas that the most ads were run by my opponent is the areas that we won by the most. Now, people are ready to hear the constructive ideas, how you can help their lives, how you're going to address where they are. People don't wake up thinking about politics. They wake up thinking about their job and whether they can afford to give their family opportunities, the safety of the roads and bridges, which is what we're dealing with in this weather, the safety of their community, whether they can afford the next doctor visit they're going to. Those are the types of things that people think about every single day, and meeting our people there and helping them and spending our legislative sessions how we help everybody is what we should be doing, and what I'm going to continue to do. Very excited. I expect this economy is only going to continue to grow, and look forward to working with you all on how together we can do a couple of things. We didn't start this office with Charles. I hate to use this word. We resurrected it. It was an office that had been created but lay dormant. But we have a different way we want to go about it. You all work hard every day to better the lives in your community and in your congregation. But getting the information can be tough about the programs we have, maybe to help people that that are struggling, and or to get people to that next level of education or training to better their lives, or their cybersecurity grants for churches and others that are out there to help ensure your organization is strong and you can deal with helping people instead of fighting off that next cyber attack or worrying about personal information that people are trying to take and or steal. I mean, our goal is to connect the good things that we're doing, the programs that are out there, the federal grants and others, directly to you so that you can do even more great work and know all the tools that are out there to help. We also want to make sure that we're getting you the information about what's going on here in Frankfort and across the Commonwealth in different areas where you can help. I'm just going to mention one, and then I'll turn it over to Charles, and we can always open up for questions. The Red Cross has basically put out a state of emergency that blood supply is running incredibly short across the country. They're about to start postponing surgeries in various hospitals. There are fewer regular donors than we've had in a long time. I've held 3 blood drives here in the Capitol. We're going to hold another, and we're going to try to do it bigger. We're going to do it across all our state office buildings. I'm going to try to get our universities involved. If you and your congregations would also get involved, whether it's at the time that we do it or starting right now, this is a need our fellow human beings have and need. Most of the New Testament, when I read about miracles, are about healing. And this is something that is needed for our healers out there. All those great healthcare heroes that do the very best when our friends and others need help. And whether that's someone going through trauma or so many people who are dealing with conditions, people that I know and love, where they need transfusions. Right now, there is just this critical need that not everybody has heard about, that we can all literally roll up our sleeves and do something about. I want to close by saying thank you. We have gone through historic adversity these last 4 years, but we've done it together, and y'all's leadership has been tremendous. It's saved lives. It's enhanced lives. You've helped people in so many different ways, and it's been an amazing partnership that I hope you feel with this office. I also want to thank you for your prayers, and and any support or uplifting. We could use that every single day, but I'm going to continue to do what's right, whether other people are or not. My faith teaches me that doing good things is supposed to be hard. And when I look at what's supposed to be the example that we live our lives by, none of the adversity I face is all that bad. So let me turn it over to Charles.
Thank you, Governor. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, look, the governor really outlined the challenges that we're facing, but the imperative we have to meet them and the opportunity that we have to seize, and we're not going to miss it. I am certainly a little saddened that we're not together in person. I want to thank you all for understanding the moment to come together to lift your voice on some critical issues affecting the Commonwealth and to at least connect with you virtually now. But you all know we're locked arms with you every step of the way, as the governor mentioned. And I'll just punctuate this and then pull back so you have time for discussion. This office is really intent on being a resource for you, an ally for you, making sure you get the information that you need, but also making sure that your voices and concerns are heard, bridging a lot of the gaps because we often work in silos and we are so powerful when we work together. We have the information, we're equipped, and you do the work on the ground. You do the work to make Kentucky great, and we want to be intentional on being there for you and with you. And one example, the governor talked about a lot of the priorities that are undergirding the budget, which, a lot of people will say that is a declaration of priorities or a moral statement. Of course, we are leading with our values in this budget that the governor has put together with this amazing administration. And we want to make sure that you have some context, some meat on the bones of what this budget means, the process and where we are, so that you can be equipped to educate your membership, your communities, but also engage our folks across the street. I'm actually one of the few here at the Capitol building. I had some catching up on some work since folks aren't in the building, but some of my former colleagues across the street, being able to let them know the needs that Kentuckians face and why this budget is so important. So we're currently working, and I know I'm not a cabinet secretary, but I do have the honor of bugging them all the time. And we're working together to get some information that we can share with you, and even do some convenings on what is in the budget and how we can build together. So stay tuned on that. And I see, Governor, you got something you want to jump in?
Why don't you get a link to the executive summary of the budget? And if you could either put that in the chat or send it out to everybody. It's about a 30-page document, but it goes through all the major highlights. And there are pieces that you will see that I think you'll want to pull out. For instance, right now we have the lowest recidivism rate in the history of Kentucky. That's truly living out second chances, but it's because of two major things. Number one is more drug treatment within our prisons and jails than we've ever had, addressing the root cause of so much of what we face. But the second one is better reentry services, more second chance employment than ever before. We've got a thing with the chamber that we're doing that's having some results. We have a partnership with our unions that's producing really great results in training people with especially building and trade skills while they're in and putting them in good jobs when they come out. When we think about different things where we can work together, it's, I think, how we can work together, for instance, on that second chance employment. Those skills, recovery housing is out there for folks that need a little extra structure after treatment, but also helping us find second chance employers, spreading the word, because these workers have been phenomenal. Everyone in the program has raved about it, but we are going to need more of these opportunities as we move forward.
No, that is a great point, and I'm working on getting the link that I'll share with you all. Actually, I was sifting through my emails. I will, if I can't drop that here in the next 30 seconds, I'll send that to you all to disseminate. But we also want to have a deeper dive and sort of fly a little bit below the cloud so you can see where things are. And that's just an example. And one thing I did also want to mention that I'm really grateful for the governor's leadership he's made it clear through our values that hate has no place in Kentucky. And so we are working to bring folks together to look at how not only do we address concerns around anti-Semitism, but concerns of discrimination across the board. We know the climate and the times that we're in, and it requires us to do the right thing. And so we will be working with all of you to create environments where everyone can practice their faith, they can live out their values, and know that they are safe and welcomed in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. That's something else this office will be right in the heart of. And again, wanted to make sure that I'm here for you. You email me individually directly if you have any particular questions, a program, an initiative you're working on that you want to help share out, pursuing funding or resources for. Let me help you. And you all know my email, but it's charles.booker@ky.gov.
Charles, thank you. Governor, thank you so much. If it's all right, we might have a few questions if both of you would be willing. Fantastic. First of all, we are very grateful for you making time for us. And just for those who are watching on the stream, we had terrible technical difficulties this morning. The snow, I think, got into the internet lines. I think that's what happened. We had so our apologies to those of you who may have been watching earlier, and we're very grateful that you're here with us now. We will be uploading. We did make a recording of the press briefing, and Governor, you may know that we have had a long-standing care for the Kentuckians who are the most disadvantaged. Our faith teaches us, as you grew up in the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, I know, or attend one now. Many of us are Roman Catholic. Many of us are all Methodists are on board here, UCC, Lutherans, and a whole range of Kentuckians know from their Sunday school teaching that the way we care for each other is one of the measures of how we express our devotion to God. We've been very concerned about a number of things, and we'll be uploading our press briefing on House Bill 5, which is that omnibus so-called Safer Kentucky Act. I know both of you have looked at that. Our major concern that we expressed there, and I'd love to hear your comments about it, is that we feel like this is a lot of recycled policies that don't actually work, kind of a return to the 3 strikes you're out rules, increasing the number of people who are going to be charged with felonies, increasing the drug penalties, which, we understand there's a horrible drug crisis, but the policies that are being suggested by this bill clearly disincentivize recovery and clearly disincentivize communities actually being able to police themselves. So we've been worried about the criminalization of street camping, especially on cold nights like today, when people don't have any choices about that. How is it that caring for one another has become so divisive? Was it always that way?
You know how powerful fear is as an emotion. And what we have seen in the last half dozen or more elections is trying to create a boogeyman of one form or another, or to rile people up, whether that is to vote against someone, which is typically what we see, as opposed to for something. And we've created this air of pessimism and fear in our country right now that isn't factual. I mean, right now we've got the best economy in Kentucky, and we've got a pretty roaring economy across the United States. But if you ask people, they will say the economy is terrible. Now, if you ask people how they're doing, they'll say, "Oh, I'm doing great." We see, I mean, in the last ad that my opponent ran, he showed a murder in the background, and it was faint. But this is what's thrown in people's face every day. It's a mixture of the campaigns, of social media, which is so negative, and of news, which starts off every night with any murder or shooting before you see amazing acts that people have done or things that are game changers for the state or for the rest. And part of what we've got to figure out how to do as a society, but certainly in how we provide people information, is to be able to somehow push away from the false reality that's being created in this pessimism that people push and push and push on us. And to be fair, you see one side saying the country's gone to hell, and you see the other side saying people are trying to take our democracy, right? both are incredibly negative in their tone, not getting to the truthfulness of any of them, and it makes it really hard for people to see the reality of what we're dealing with, and then to deal with any nuance. And how, with the modern age of people not consuming news, that we get to the nuances is the challenge. At a time when in Louisville or in Lexington, every time you turn on the news, you see some information about a violent crime. And it could be the fourth story on it, on the third or the fourth hearing that's going on. How we can really get and delve into the policy is challenging. And then within the court system itself, how we differentiate in between that drug dealer that is dealing fentanyl simply for money, knowing it's killing people and has killed people, and others that are already heavily addicted and are selling to support their habit. One, the intent and the harm is very intentional. On the other, it's someone who is sick and who might be engaging in acts that can still really hurt people. But the root cause is something very different. The nuance on the 3 strikes rule as well, really right now just talks about any violent crime, and you really got to delve into that definition. There are some where you're already going to have life without parole, and we could look at what some of those crimes are and probably all say, okay, if you do that 3 times. But then there are others where we ought to be really careful about how we proceed. And then the reality, which we also have to face, is we only have a certain ability to house people in our penal system. I can tell you the challenge from the executive branch side is you don't control the supply, right? But you have to meet it, and that's a great fiscal challenge for the Commonwealth as well. And I'll just finally end on homelessness. And I think we've got to be humble in a lot of challenges we face. And I think while there are some good programs and some different places that help on different sides of this, I think we've got to say that this is a challenge we haven't figured out. And we've got to keep working on it. It ranges from people that have had some economic crisis that have rendered them homeless to severe mental illness. And I don't think there's a one size fits all. And I think this is a really daunting challenge that's going to continue to take good people trying different things to come up with the right solutions. But for someone that is on the streets and isn't harming anyone, it seems like incarceration is not that solution.
Thank you so much.
I went a little deep in the weeds there. I apologize.
No. We are a weedy people. We are we are acquainted with grass. Absolutely. Todd, I know you had some questions, and there might be some comments as well. And I'll put some things in the chats.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for all of your wonderful words. And I do want to thank Executive Director Booker for correcting me on his title in his position. Thank you so much for that. We do have a few questions and a couple of comments from the chat. First off, Gene Hawkshurst, who is the Ecumenical Staff Officer for the United Methodist Church, wanted to thank the governor for his kind words of his message for the UMC gathering for Martin Luther King Jr. Day yesterday. So thank you for that, Governor. We do have a question about voting rights. We have Tip Moody is one of the people who had his rights restored under EO 2019-003. And he feels that there's a disconnect between that order and the number of people who have received pardons. And he was wondering if there are any plans to expand the executive order and or to take a more aggressive approach in reviewing individual partial pardon requests.
Well, first, let me say that thus far we've restored voting rights to over 180,000 Kentuckians, which I believe is more than every other governor in our history put together, multiplied by about 5 or more. The executive order has, I think, done an incredible amount of good, but also been done in a way that brings people together, doesn't pull them apart, and can hopefully set the stage for a constitutional amendment where the next governor simply can't undo it. But to be clear, and I've had this conversation with a number of people that are on, I think we have to understand that when we get beyond nonviolent, non-sexual offenses, that there are at least differences of opinion in voting rights and other restoration. Now, some will say, and I've listened and I understand that, well, once somebody has done their time, then it ought to be automatic. But remember, for a rape victim, they're never fully healed. They're never fully restored. And I can tell you from the Survivors Council that I led, where we had victims of violent crime helping us on our policy to be victim-centered and trauma-centered. They would say if they're never fully made whole, and they're the ones that were the victim of the violent crime, that they would view the restoration of that individual who violated them in a way that never fully heals. They would not view that in a positive light. And so there's just a point where it becomes more complicated, and where we certainly try to listen to everyone and what they've been through. But I will say that victims of violent crime are individuals that I listen to very closely, having prosecuted some of the worst of the worst that are out there, and knowing some of our laws, especially what some individuals do to children, don't carry a very long sentence. I will tell you that for the longest time, trying to use an electronic device to meet and violate a child was a Class D felony, which could get someone their voting rights back in a year. And certainly some concerns there about it. On the pardon side, I will tell you what we look for are primarily, and where we start, are the drug-related pardons, about folks that have turned their life around, that the offenses are all related to it. And of those, I believe I've done more in my term as governor as opposed to at the end than what you have seen in the past. I will say I'm very reticent at the ones where people claim that they did not commit a crime that a jury convicted them of, and that has been through the appeals process on a lot of different layers. That's admittedly me being an attorney and generally and believing in the system, though knowing it can make mistakes. Now, we have, especially when I was Attorney General, met with the Innocence Project, listened to them, reopened different cases at different times. So we always want to accept that information, but I also want to be transparent in that I do generally believe in the system, and those are the more challenging petitions that we get in. We are trying to speed up, though, the requests for voting rights restorations that come in through the Department of Corrections. See, most regular pardons come in directly into the office, and we have the system, though ones that are just for voting rights go to the Department of Corrections and then come to us. So we are working at speeding that part up.
Thank you for that answer, Governor. I have been advised by Tip that I missed part of his question. I'm sorry for that. Chat goes by kind of quickly and I miss things. Tip wanted to know, apparently, according to Tip, you have signed only 60 in the past 4 years. He was wondering why they're so short at this point. It sounds like you kind of answered that question as you went on, but if you'd like to address him directly, I would love to hear from you.
I would say during most governors' terms, you don't see 60. You see them all right at the end. We're doing them, but I also take the responsibility very seriously. And we look through them, we look over them, and we want to make sure that the ones that we sign are ultimately the right ones. I will also tell you one of the hardest things, whether it is getting people their unemployment benefits or getting through a pardon application, is to get them to pick up the phone. And that will sound surprising, but I've had 3 pardons sitting on my desk ready to sign where I cannot get in contact with the people whatsoever. That's just a small thing for those of you that are working with individuals that have submitted it, a very small thing, but one that can be kind of challenging because we don't have a way outside of the email and the phone numbers. But it's a very daunting responsibility, but one we try to very carefully get through the applications that are certainly at the top. And for those that are helping people, again, I will tell you the ones we look for are the ones that are, the first ones that are on the top are drug charges, certainly possession, but then also crimes that can come off of that possession, and then people who have most definitely turned their life around. We love seeing people who are now peer support specialists, because I think you see a little bit of God in people who've been through the worst and then delve back into it to help somebody else.
Well, thank you, Governor. I do have one more question for you from our chat. One of our participants wants to know if you think that the restoration of voting rights has been an important element to the reduced recidivism, or is it primarily economically driven?
I would say first, to me, it's morally driven. I believe that people should be able to participate in this great democracy. Do I think it has helped in recidivism? It could. I'd love to be able to take a look at that further. It definitely gives people more of a sense of belonging, at least from the conversations that I've had. But it's been, I think, a really positive thing. Now, I will tell you, one place that we can use help is that there is a role in government in creating a streamlined way where people can learn if their voting rights have been restored, because this is automatic. And other than a brief time under my dad, this is the first time for certain individuals, 180,000 now, that it's been an automatic restoration where they don't have to do a thing. And you can go to any county clerk to go register to vote, and they can look up in a database and find you. So we got around the idea that you'd have to go back to where a crime had been committed or where you'd been convicted. But there's a place where government stops that different other organizations need to pick up, and that is the getting out there, the finding people, and then and getting them to register, because the political can kind of bleed over into the to the governmental, and so there's kind of a line where we need others to come in, and anyone can ultimately get on this database. You can submit an open records request and get the name of everyone in the state whose voting rights have been restored, and so there is the push to get more restoration. I understand that, and I want to continue to listen to that. But another way we can use our energy is to make sure more of the people who've had their voting rights restored are actually registered and voting. And I think there's a significant power in that.
Well, thank you so much for those wonderful answers. And before I am checking our chats right now to make sure we don't have any more questions, and I am not seeing any. So in that case, Kent, it seems like you have a question, so I will let you go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, this is one that this is for you, Charles, if you'd be open to it. I know that you've mentioned before some support for churches through like the cybersecurity and things like that. Is it through your office that churches or that faith leaders could contact about that information? Or maybe, Governor, you have the information there. But I think that'd be interesting for folks to hear about these cooperative efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure. Okay. I keep muting, so I want to make sure, but yes. I am actually working to bring back, we were trying to do this before the end of the year, put some sessions together, some areas around Kentucky where we can bring our Director of Homeland Security to inform about the resources available, walk you through the process. So if you are interested, there's funding that is available annually. A lot of the money sits on the table. A lot of folks don't generally know about it, and that's part of what I'm trying to help with. So please connect with me if you're interested in fortifying your institution. And there's a lot of creative ways we can go about helping you do that, even internet services, physical structure, but training capacity for your staff as well. So the holidays got away from us, but I'm working now with the Director of Homeland Security to get some dates going so we can have some sessions virtually and in person to give you that information as well.
That's fantastic, and thank you,
So-
Governor.
And let me just add on top of that, if you receive threats, we're seeing that a lot just across the board. It's unfortunate, but one person with a secret email address can cause a lot of harm or fear or damage. Please reach out to us too. We were recently able to work with a couple of our synagogues that had bomb threats to get them the full story as we knew it. Obviously, we're working with the new task force on anti-Semitism, and making sure that we are providing the information, but also the overall security and intelligence that can help when you face something like that.
Okay. Well, Governor, if you can hear me,
I can.
Ashley Diane Homerich, I'm hoping I'm saying her name correctly, is keeping me honest in the comments. I missed her comment. She would like to know, how are you looking at the harm of racial biases in our judicial system and that relationship to voting rights?
Yeah, I think that racism continues in our society and impacts just about every part of our society in one form or another. I think one of the first ways that we address it is inclusion, is ensuring that the institutions that serve our people look like our population.
Well, I'm not sure if we've lost our other participants at this point.
I can hear the
Our
governor.
time has been drawing to a close here, so I am not certain if we've lost the governor's office, and it's possible that we had another glitch in the computer stream, as the case is so often the case. Meanwhile, our time is drawing to a close anyway, so let me thank all of you for joining us as part of our KCC Day at the Legislature. We will be having another one as we come towards February 27th, so please mark your calendars and plan to join us in person. We'll pray that we'll be able to join in person on that day. I hope that wherever you find yourself, that you are finding ways to put your faith into practice. It doesn't make any difference if what we do is go into little silos and pray on Sunday mornings, but don't take the love, the hope, the joy, the compassion that we're taught about and bring it to others. So as part of the Kentucky Council of Churches, as one of the faithful members of a local congregation, I hope that you'll be a part of lending your voice to the sustaining voices of compassion and upbuilding, both for ourselves and for all of those in Kentucky. On behalf of the governor, let me thank all of you as well. And Governor Beshear, if you're able to see us and hear us, we're so very deeply grateful. I appreciate your time and effort. And Charles Brooker, again, you have been such a great friend to the churches. We look forward to reaching back to you and working together in partnership. My friends, this ends our time at the Legislature today, our virtual day at the Legislature. And I want to thank Reverend Todd Smith, the chair of the Justice and Advocacy Commission, and also Melissa Holland, our executive director, who's made all of this possible. Thank you very much to one and all, and may God bless and keep you as we move forward together in faith. Thank you.